Yes, we are giving her the chance to flourish and keep her personality. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now, this what if is not like any other what if story that we have on the channel. For the month of December, we are doing a holiday something, a special treat for you. For the rest of this month, we are going to be going through this story alone, in its entirety, start to finish. It's all to do with the idea of Gohan's partner, Videl. Now, in the Buu Saga of Dragon Ball Z, she was a major part of Gohan's character arc and gave him the notion that maybe, hey, there's more to life than just reading books. And naturally, it was a fleeting experience, of course, because hey, it was a thing that happened. But what if it lingered? We wish to explore the idea of what could come about had Videl chosen to keep on with her training, or had maybe a more involved experience with the whole thing, instead of it being a one and done thing for the Buu Saga and she completely forgets about it. Would it have made a difference to the overall product? So let me give you some background to this. Like our Bulma trained like Goku what if, this is all revolving around different synaptic firings and impulses and decision making within the main character it focuses' brain. In that example I told you, Bulma saw the martial arts tournament lay out before her in a bit of a different light, and as a result, her decisions that she made subsequently changed for her to get more into the fighting aspect of the Dragon Team and not just her inventive side. She could have both. We are going to be exploring how Videl's outlook and decisions might change if she got more into her training and discovered more about the world that Gohan was so deeply involved in, despite his relative slacking in training since the days of the Cell games. This is actually a three-person effort between myself, Haverock, and our pals Sophie B Powerhouse. You might recognize those names from our roundtable live streams. You can find Sophie's channel up top, by the way. Together, we have been brainstorming what could realistically happen if Videl got this chestnut, and I am packaging it myself, bringing it all together into a neat little bundle for you to consume and consider right now. So, let's get to it. To begin with, we are not going to be going through the whole rigmarole of Videl discovering the identity of the Golden Warrior, all of those hijinks, and then her initial forays with Gohan. That doesn't really change the outcome of this story too much, so what's the point of retreading old ground if it doesn't bring anything new to the table? We are also not going to be changing Gohan's starting point. He is just as soft, as Vegeta would put it, as he was in the original story. There's no change from his base. We are taking things from just when Videl issues her ultimatum to Gohan in exchange for her silence about who he really is, the Great Saiyaman. The story proper begins the day when Videl arrived at Mount Palzu, keen to pick a fight with Gohan and prove him wrong, only to get a fight in the form of Chi-Chi, who is absolutely apoplectic with this young girl manipulating her darling firstborn son, all for the sake of information. And it's lucky that Chi-Chi didn't lamp her one when Gohan and Goten arrived in the nick of time. The situation is very bleak, but Gohan and Goten ease the mood, thankfully, with Videl reluctantly promising to go along with the whole charade on the proviso that she doesn't hurt or touch Gohan. But the young girl's just keen to get all this socializing over with and get on with learning how to fly and be done with it so she can go home, under her own steam ideally. She had been sort of curious with this idea ever since she had watched the Cell games on TV, from ZTV of course, and Jimmy Firecracker, and saw that yellow-haired warrior and the bugman that her father had beaten floating in the sky. Was that actually possible for anyone to learn? She wanted some of that if it were true, but in the back of her mind, understandably given who her father was, she just hoped it didn't involve any string or mirrors. In her later teenage years, she kind of forgot about it, but it all came back to the surface when she saw the Golden Warrior in action, doing the same exact thing with the same hair and agile motions without a string in sight. But with that doubt in the back of her mind, she was skeptical when Gohan was calmly teaching what was natural to him as if it were just the most normal thing ever. She was getting impatient as a result. She wanted to learn how to fly now, not have an impromptu lecture in the middle of a field. She didn't want to be coming all this way for some theory. She could get that at high school. And Goten could see her frustration in action, and said in a very calming and cooing way that his bro was really good at this, and that he was excited to learn himself how to fly. That made her stay. The very thought of her having less patience than a 7-year-old was something too much to bear for herself, and so she waited and took in the theory reluctantly, and then practiced. There was a limit though. When Gohan suggested that she cut her hair, she pouted immediately and went home like in the original. And also like in the original, she returned the next day with her trademark pixie cut, a personal favourite of mine, and quickly grasped the reason why Gohan had requested her to cut her hair in the first place. Now realising that this wasn't all hogwash and Gohan trying to put his preferences on her, Videl steamed on and proceeded to do some light sparring with Gohan after learning how to fly. She was actually getting more and more excited, genuinely excited, with this feeling of power and lightness. Not only was she able to move her limbs more swiftly than ever, she could fly too! She'd never have to pay for fuel for a car ever again. Well, I mean, okay, she'd have to buy lunch for herself because it would take a lot out of her, but hey, that was much more agreeable and tasty than the traditional method. Gohan was noticing this rapid progress, and in this story, his synaptic firings were changing too. Instead of just getting a crush, like in the typical high school antics and romance teenage angst and doing the standard training regimen, he was actually getting fired up. Something that he hadn't felt since he was training with his father back in the Room of Spirit and Time. He had actually really missed this feeling bizarrely, but he had to put that all to one side for the sake of his studies and of course his mother, because Goku wasn't around, and ensuring that his mother that he would be a good scholar and make the most of this peacetime to get a proper amount of scholarship studies in and get the education necessary to have a good job, because that's the only thing Chi-Chi thinks about. That being said, he was thrilled to see something before him change dramatically that he hadn't experienced in years. There was another feeling though. He felt like Mr. Piccolo. Was this what it was like to have a pupil and to see them grow right before you? Now, okay, granted, he had done some light training and teaching with his brother Goten, but that wasn't quite the same, if you know what I mean. That was more just like an older brother showing his siblings the ropes and the school of hard knocks about life, and I mean literal hard knocks. This, with Videl, was so much more different. It was special. He couldn't wait to tell Piccolo that he had a student. The look on his face, he'd be so proud. But okay, first, he actually had to ensure that he didn't scare her away, that he didn't go too far with this. "This is good work, Videl," he nodded with enthusiasm. "At this rate, you could get real far in the World Martial Arts Tournament." "What? That thing? I'm pretty sure I could have done before I met you. To tell you the truth, I'd actually forgotten about it." But then she actually goes a little bit further, deciding to tease him for that remark. "Wait, are you suggesting I wouldn't have been good enough without your help?" Gohan, sure enough, panicked and clarified that, oh, he was just complimenting her. She sticks her tongue out and bonks him on the head. Gotcha. He had no clue that he was punked. In honesty though, really, the tournament was all her father would ever talk about, especially since he actually won it the last time out. He was the defending champion, of course, and he had insisted on her taking part as well, not only for her to have some fun, but also it would look very good for the PR department of Satan Enterprises. I mean, think about the headlines. "The daughter of our savior takes up the mantle." That was a pretty hollow reason to enter, definitely, even she could tell, but this right now gave us some kind of purpose. If Gohan was super strong, enough to become the Golden Warrior, sort of like what happened in the Cell games, then she could maybe get a similar spark and get something out of this boring tournament after all. This was the catalyst I was talking about for her to get more involved in the training. She kept coming back day after day, and her power also increased day after day as Gohan upped the ante. And I mean, okay, it was still child's play to him in terms of her power, but he could visibly tell her progress. But then a thought occurred to him. Could he press the Goku button? No, not that button, the other button. "Say, I know we don't have much time left before the tournament, but I've got an idea of how you could get way stronger in much less time." "Huh? What? Have you got some kind of time machine, Gohan?" Gohan shifts a little bit and laughs awkwardly. "Well, sorta. He then explains how the room of spirit and time works up on the lookout, but Videl is immediately suspicious at this. How does that thing, if it's real, even work? Trust me, there are many days where I think the same thing, but I can show you any time if you like. It's easy since you can fly too at the moment. It means I don't have to carry you. What are you saying? Am I heavy or something? She eyes him up viciously. No, I meant that as in you can fly yourself and you don't need my help? He shrugs, and fortunately this was enough to calm Videl down. As they fly to the lookout, Gohan considers the length of time that they should actually be training in there. Now, in theory, they could stay a whole day, 1 year inside the chamber, and be all perfectly fine. Videl could get really powerful, and really not be too far off the rest of the dragon team. I mean, okay, she would at least be able to put up some kind of fight and resistance against the likes of Yamcha or Chaozu for a bit. But then something put him off that idea. Well, 3 things actually. Firstly, Chi-Chi was already sort of touchy about him using that room after having lost a year of Gohan's childhood beforehand, so that was already weighing on his mind. Then there was the worry of their relationship, their budding one, and the master-pupil dynamic. If that soured, things weren't going well, and it ended badly, how awkward would that be? And then most importantly, they were teenagers, with a hyper-accelerated relationship. Who's to say, as Sophie put it in our discussions and brainstorming sessions, Videl would come out of the room looking a little chubbier than she did when she entered. I mean, Gohan couldn't bear the thought. He would like to be a father, sure, but not right now. There's plenty of studying to do. By the time they get to the lookout, his mind was made up though. Hey Dende, he hailed his friend. Is it okay we use the time chamber for a week or so? Dende spots Gohan and says that, oh yeah, it should be perfectly fine. And when Videl asked about who this guy is, Gohan informs Videl that Dende was the Guardian of Earth and in charge of the special chamber. So, does that make you God? Videl says with trepidation. Dende thinks for a second to come up with a reasonable answer. I mean, I guess. My job is to oversee this world and ensure that it stays safe, so you could say I'm your God, though I'm still getting used to the notion myself. He chuckles, but Videl is dumbstruck. What kind of friends did Gohan have? Anyway, the chamber awaited them, and in they went for 1 week, inside which equated to about 15 Earth minutes. Inside the room, Videl and Gohan trained without interruption, and this is where the two actually get to know each other a little more, much faster than before. Now you think that their relationship was developing faster than the original? Think again. By the time they actually come out of here right now, they were firmly committed. During this time, Videl understood that Gohan wasn't a brash and arrogant twerp, full of tricks and illusions that her father had maybe alluded to and implied. She had basically been told many lies as a kid. She saw before her, here, right now, a sincere, kind and formidable young man who adored the pants off of her, head over heels in love. And yes, of course, he was a little dorkier than the guys that she usually attracted, but in a way, that was actually sort of a relief. Gohan here was uncomplicated and pure. He also did look nice and was strong. That helped too. He was the real deal, a complete package. And Gohan himself was enamored with Videl. He had never experienced this feeling before in his life. Sure, he had liked girls, but it never really manifested itself in this manner before. Since joining high school, he had actually garnered many eyes on him from the likes of the ladies. And that was just simply for existing. He was a lovable dork. He didn't know how to handle it, and so chose to focus on his studies even more, and was relieved to don the helmet and cape of his great Saiyaman persona just to escape the nervous tension. Here though, Videl made him feel comfortable, secure, elated. She was pretty great. Was this a sign that there was indeed more to life than studying? Well, yes. But that is until conferences show up later on. When it came to the actual training, this extra week of practice improved Videl's finesse no end. Not only did she obviously get physically stronger and more toned and muscular than in the original, but she actually also started, and this is something the original didn't really go into, understanding this newfound power. In the original, she was stronger thanks to Gohan's quick sparring sessions, but there was a problem. She had little comprehension because she didn't have the chance to, nor the ability to contain this power, and when to use it. And as a result, like you saw, Spopovich's neck did a literal 180. She went a little bit over the board there. With this extra time to concentrate, Gohan had the chance to teach Videl the importance of focusing her power for when she needed it most. You've made a lot of gains, so you might do something rash against normal folk if you're not careful. You have to understand when you need to use the power. Videl at first didn't get it, but then she did get it when Gohan again pointed out that she would be fighting against normal people for the most part in this contest. And if she did decide to fight all out, not tempering her energy all the time, she could seriously injure someone or even kill somebody without knowing it. She understood quickly after that. So, as a result, we not only got a stronger Videl, but a more concentrated Videl. When they emerged, Videl's gains were notable, and Dende said so, but she was a little disappointed with her progress. Thanks, God, but I couldn't get how to do those energy things. I failed. It's okay, Videl. You don't have to learn everything at once. There's plenty of time to learn. The main thing is that you're much stronger than when you entered. I'm sure you're gonna do great in the tournament. I'll be watching from here. Gohan nodded as if to reaffirm Dende's thoughts. This did make her feel a little better, but it still got to the trainee that she didn't master Ki. When they left, Videl went back to her place to not only get some rest, but maybe do a little training in private. After a much needed shower and nap, she trained with her regular equipment and found that she had gotten better, and not by a little. She could just casually lift her dumbbells, which before required noticeable effort. 40-pound weights? Easy peasy. 80-pound weights? Not a problem. She then eyed up the big guns, her father's kit. She prepared herself and focused her energy like Gohan had taught her. She was able to lift 500 pounds with little strain, but she did need to focus the whole time. But then her dad walked in and his jaw hit the floor. Videl! This snapped her out of her space, and the weights just clattered to the ground. Luckily, she didn't hurt her foot. How did you do that? You just benched what I benched as if it were nothing. He was amazed, but also kind of scared. Was this Gohan some kind of magician? She was nowhere near that strong yesterday. She chuckled and made excuses and platitudes to appease her father, but he was more proud than angry, of course. I mean, come on. His little girl is becoming a grown, strong lady and will do great in the tournament. The tournament indeed arrived, and both Videl and Gohan met and showcased their newfound relationship, making their classmates rave and cheer, as well as making Arasa feel jealous, but also sort of happy for Gohan. It was a bit of a mixed bag overall for her. When it came to the draws, Videl and Gohan made it through to the top 16 like before, and she got very pumped. She had made it into the main matches on her own volition, without the need for her father to give her a bye or a let-through. She had earned it herself, thanks to Gohan, as well as her own determination. She had changed a lot in these few weeks, and felt more assured than she could remember in the last few years. She was happy. She was also curious to see how well her power could fare in this contest, against her first opponent in the top 16, Spopovich. Hercule noted that he wasn't all that strong, so he should be an easy warm-up for her. But then again, he looks completely different. He shaved his head and everything. You better watch yourself, honey. I don't like the look of him. Videl nodded and gave her dad the thumbs up. The stage was set for the two fighters. They entered the ring. Spopovich doesn't bow, speak, or show any acknowledgement to Videl. He just simply stands there, waiting to do the deed. Videl is actually getting kind of cocky. What's the matter? You scared? Dad told me you were a pushover. That got nothing. Yep, her dad was right. Something's peculiar here. Gohan from the sidelines tells her not to be so aggressive with her words, as this is meant to be a contest of martial arts, not being sassy. Videl finds it cute that he would use the word sass. Gohan blushes. The fight is ready to begin. The announcer gives the order, and the two surge forward. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you folks think? Do you feel that this new journey of self-discovery for Videl would yield better results in the long run? Will she indeed go the distance and win against Spopovich? Believe me, I want her to. Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!